camera, Greg Barker, right over there, and Abby Tobner and Camille Mortimer, who are not here this morning. Today we're doing something a little different. Usually every week at 9 a.m. we highlight a startup, and today we're highlighting a technology company that's been around for, I don't want to steal your thunder, how many years? 20?
Long time, 86.
Well, it says 25 right there.
Oh wow, I should want to read this line. So we're highlighting PKWARE and their adventures into the startup realm. Before we get started, I want to thank Jake and Jack Price.
And
Dave Price, who provide the coffee for us every week. It's always good to have caffeine this early in the morning. So without further ado, I want to introduce Matt Little and Jack Dale from PKWARE, and you guys can take it away from here.
Awesome. So I'm Matt. I'm Jack. I've been with PKWARE for almost 13 years now, so really long time. Longer, probably 11 years longer than I thought I'd be with any company. I come out of IT consulting, worked for Johnson Controls, CompuWare, Aurora Healthcare, did a lot of enterprise IT. Before I came to PKWARE, which is a small company. They've been Wisconsin-based since inception, originally based in Brown Deer. Fell in love with the place, and I've been there ever since.
I'm Jack. I work on the product engineering team. I've been at PKWARE for about 3 years, kind of brought to the company during, well, we'll get into it during the slides, so I'm working on one of the products that PKWARE has built.
Normally our CEO, Miller Newton, loves to do these types of things, but he's out of town. We couldn't work it, so Jack and I are going to tag team it for Miller. But just a quick minute on PKWARE history. I've been there for a long time, but I feel like I've worked for 3 different companies. When I first started at PKWARE, they were just the small zip file guys. They built products for Unix, Linux, and Windows. And they had just acquired a company in Dayton, Ohio called Ascent Solutions that built products for mainframes and mid-range systems. And the CEO at the time wanted to combine those compression products and tell one story. We want to do compression on every enterprise operating system, make it all cross-compatible. So kind of coming into one company that had just acquired another one, merging networks, devices, cultures, personnel, kind of going through all those growth pains. That was sort of like the first company I worked for. The second one was through when Miller. So Miller Newton is our CEO. He's the ex-CEO of Monster. He's done Lava Storm, a handful of other companies in Boston. But when Miller came to the company, it's he really put the hammer down on encryption, security, mobile, BYOD, cloud, and gave us that focus. So that's sort of like the second company I've been working for. And the third company is the one we're kind of building now. Fast forward 5 years after Miller took the helm. So here's the slide. So yeah. PKWARE is most notably known for PKZip. Have you guys heard of PKZip? Anyone? Everybody used it? No, a few people haven't used it. Way back. So it's Miller always says, we're one of the most well-recognized brands in enterprise IT, but we're also the most misunderstood. Compression's been commoditized for 15, 20 years now. We haven't really been doing compression for that long. But data is our heritage. It's where we started. It's where we're at. The company's been doing strong encryption now for probably 12 years. 2004 is when we first released our first encryption product, which is Secure Zip. And we're just going to talk about the history a little bit. So why are we here today? Why did we come to 1 million cups when Cordio asked us? We're not a startup, but we do meet the other criteria. The real question that we ask ourselves every single day. Is in 25 years, why has PKWARE only built 2 products, right? We got really lucky with our first one, PKZip. Zip files. We invented the zip file. It hit critical mass a long time ago. We got 30,000 customers using that product. Many of them were enterprises. So, the things that so what had happened is we had become stagnant. We were really proud. We were one of the most well-run companies, around, and we were very proud of our ability to forecast, plan, deliver things, to our biggest customers on time. And we had, the classic Christensen problem, right? We're continuing to build things for our favorite customers, and we're completely ignoring our least favorite customers who are getting snapped up by competitors left and right. So, why do good companies fail? Failure to innovate. So Miller, actually Clay, you guys all, everybody knows Clayton Christensen? No? It was I wasn't really sure. The 1 Million Cups website, as I kind of went to look about what this was about, there's some of his teachings there. But Harvard, East Coast, teaches disruptive innovation, wrote the 2 famous books, Innovator's Dilemma, Innovator's Solution. If you just want the solution, you can skip the dilemma. But you know, he talks about disruptive innovation and leveraging excess capacity. You know, why was Uber able to do what they were able to do? Why was you know, Airbnb able to do what they were able to do? It took Marriott, you know, 30 years to get to 400,000 beds a night, and Airbnb did that in a couple of weeks. You know, so it's leveraging that excess capacity. So Clayton teaches that. He actually has a company called. It's a company we worked with, Clayton was involved with, called Innosight out on the East Coast. So we sat down with those guys and we're like, okay, look, we've got 2 really successful products, but we're not innovating right now. Kind of help us figure that out. So, you know, we worked with them to talk about what kind of new product could PKWARE go and build. So that product is
Vivo. It's pronounced Vivo. Everyone always is like, is it Vivio? And then it's not this Vivo. There's actually another product called Vivo, spelled differently, which is way more popular than our Vivo. So most people I'm like, I work on the Vivo team. They're like, that's awesome. I'm like, I don't think it's the Vivo that you're thinking of.
In all fairness, when we started,
but it's this Vivo.
They weren't that big.
I know. So this is our Vivo, and what Vivo is it's basically taking what we do for our enterprise and thinking about it from a prosumer approach. So Dropbox, have you guys all heard of Dropbox? Probably use it, or some type of cloud provider. So those tools are awesome. They take your files, make them anywhere you need them to be, on your phone, on any of your machines, anything. But some people in the world start questioning, like, well, when I give my files over to Dropbox, do they actually have my files? Like, is there someone on the other end looking at them? Or so then the question of security when you look at cloud storage comes up. And Dropbox is such a powerful tool for the average prosumer. We thought, you know, there's a problem here. It's the security aspect of cloud storage. And push comes to shove, those cloud storage providers, they don't really care about security because that's not what they're in the game for. So like their security is like this. It's the smallest gate that's the easiest thing to get around. So we recognized the problem. We knew that there was an opportunity here. So we said, you know, there's tons of people out in the world that are using cloud storage and they don't know anything about security. They're like, it just needs to work for me. It just needs to be easy. And we said, I think there's something here. So we sat as the engineering team for a long time and said, we've got to be able to take what we do for the enterprise and make something that the prosumer can use. And
the reason why we focused on prosumers out of the gate, this is 2012, so we're rewinding a couple of years, which will help you do kind of the 25-year, 30-year company math. But you know, as we looked around, we saw consumerization of IT and BYOD taking over the customer that we'd been selling to. Every single one of them had some sort of BYOD initiative starting. Everybody was bringing Dropbox into the workplace. You know, we actually started talking to our existing customers about, you know, this product. Did they think it was a good idea? And to a person, every single one of them, from the CISO level all the way on down, they spoke very, you know, convincingly and with conviction. We don't allow Dropbox. It's not going to happen. It'll never be in our company. And then, you know, as they're talking, you know, they would show you, you know, something on their computer, and like Dropbox is literally in their system tray. Like, well, what's that? And they're like, well, I'm absolved from, you know. But we never found one that didn't have it installed. So we're like, there's something here. We got to keep beating on this.
yeah, so as we started looking at prosumers, we thought there's probably an enterprise problem here too. But you know,
Yeah, we were positive that prosumers were going to take over the enterprise.
Yeah, I mean, you find the best technology and you bring it into your workplace. Like, you know, a lot of people use Evernote, and Evernote's amazing. And then, you know, Evernote has evolved to say there's like Evernote Teams and things like that. So usually technology and tools wins. So what encryption provides is really, you know, data protection. So it empowers individuals to take ownership of the content that they produce. So we're kind of like, you know, you're renting space from the cloud providers. You're just like, hey, can you hold on to these? I'll come back for them later. I might need them later on my phone or on my desktop or wherever. But when you do that, you're actually giving over control because they just own the original content then. So while you want to trust the Googles, the Dropboxes, the Boxes of the world, even Microsofts, there's no way to like actually own that control unless you encrypt your own data. And that's what Vivo does. And it's all about protecting data. It could be your data, it could be your client's data, it could be any data. So one of the things that we wanted to accomplish with Vivo was making Dropbox palatable for prosumers by taking the issue of security off the table. If we can say you can securely use Dropbox, industries or people who have to deal with compliance or any type of regulation about protecting data, that can be accomplished by encrypting it. We also knew that Dropbox and all these other cloud storage providers, the reason they were so popular was it was not hard to use. Everyone can use these tools. I mean, my mother, God bless her, she's not a technical person. She has a Dropbox and sends me links to things. So we knew that if we wanted the tool to take off, it had to take the same user experience that these other providers had. And so one of the risks that we saw in this is, well, Dropbox or any of these other guys could just do this. I mean, there's nothing stopping Dropbox from saying, well, we can implement encryption on the client side too. But we kind of took a calculated risk saying that's not their business. Their business is not encryption. They've never been an encryption company. Their business is providing a service and providing storage for businesses and prosumers to get their files wherever they want. And maybe someday if it becomes a big enough concern for them, they might address it, but that's not what their core competency is. So we thought, let's go for it.
Yeah, so Miller put the management team sat down, we talked about it, we decided we were going to get into this market. We were going to approve the resource plan to engage what we call definition. It's you put the team together, you sit down, you talk about what you can go build, how you build it, and how to deliver it as quickly as possible. And a few months later, there was a small team put together, tasked with this. And a few months later, nothing had happened. And we weren't really quite sure why. We had people literally locked in a room 8 hours a day working on this problem. Fast forward a few months, not one line of code's been written. We're still trying to really decide what we should build, how we should build it. And that's when we realized that we had kind of a culture problem. So first thing we learned, culture eats strategy for breakfast. Doesn't matter what comes out of the corner, what edicts are given. What our culture was after 25 years is we were incredibly adept at avoiding failure. And so we would talk to ourselves for a really long time to make sure that failure never happened. What we should have been talking about are all the things that you guys know now, right? Let's discuss risk up front. Let's talk, about the cost of being late. Let's fail fast, fail forward. Let's pivot quickly. These things, we hadn't learned it in 2012, 2013. We weren't there yet. So we had a culture problem.
Can you spend another moment of time talking about what you didn't do as opposed to what you did do that manifests itself there that precludes and caused the failure?
Yeah, so great question. PKWARE had what we used to call steering committees. And when Miller came in, he didn't abolish them. He was like, okay, that's cool. Steering committees are your guys' kind of thing. Each department had a steering committee made up of heads of other departments, and they would kind of discuss their work. We would approve things, talk about risk, all the things that you do as you're executing the projects. But and then what we did with Let's Build a New Product, we created the ultimate steering committee. It had the EVP of sales, international, the EVP of sales, domestic. It had our CTO. It had Miller himself. It had the heads of engineering and the heads of QA. It had basically every senior manager and all their right hands on the steering committee just to make sure this thing didn't get messed up. And as a result, we didn't do anything. So the good news is, we kind of saw this coming. We kind of thought maybe we could avoid it, but Clayton Christensen teaches this in Innovator Solution. It's skunkworks development. The incumbent mindset is always going to crush the innovation. This is very hard to get it done. So you've got to go outside. Go build a team wherever you can find them. This is about team building. And so we went and did that. We decided we were going to hire the best people anywhere we could find them. We were going to put this team together to build this product. We were going to get it done in, inside of, anywhere between 90 and 120 days. We were going to build it fast. Only 2 people from the entire existing company were allowed to switch to the innovation team. We brought in a couple of folks to help us. They conducted interviews, and only 2 people kind of made the cut. So I was one of those 2 people. Like I said, I've been there for a long time, heavily in incumbent mentality on the way I kind of think about everything, but managed to make the switch, and Jack's one of the new people that we hired as part of that initiative. So it was a big culture shock. We had new people coming into the organization, and everyone panicked. We had people in all departments freaking out that new employees weren't going through typical processes. What do you mean they didn't sit down for 3 weeks and go through all the training, all the how to do a PO, how to use the intranet, how to use all the tools we've been building for 24 years? We even had, crazy stuff where people would try to get other people fired. They're literally not playing by our rules, that we have defined. They've somehow started outside the box that we all started in some way. So, incumbents felt that, we introduced the term MVP. We were going to build a minimum viable product, and we were positive. Every engineer in the company was positive that MVP equated to crap, and a customer would never accept an MVP. You can't build one of those things. And we knew we were right. I mean, Microsoft, that's a reason why they only release every 2 years, right? You can't build an MVP of Office or some really big, encryption solution. So, a big culture shock. And so we had to step on a lot of necks. One of my favorite guys at PKWARE is always like, look, man, you just got to go step on his neck. That's, whenever we're talking about just some sort of issue. So I found it great. I don't actually know which one of those is the normal neck. I think it might be. It might be the one on the right, but it definitely looks stepped on. So we stepped on a lot of necks. But the good news is in 2013, PKWARE launched Vivo. We had unwavering support for Miller, the entire team. Every single time we would go to him with something that we tried, and we'd be like, Miller, this didn't work. He was like, good, try again. I mean, it was just unwavering. It was about how quick can you fail at these things.
Yeah, and in every failure, it's about learning. So as we tried things, we originally had the product working a certain way, and it didn't work out the way we wanted it to. And so we had to go back to Miller and say, we spent a lot of time planning this and doing it this way, and he said, cut bait. If you know it's not going to work, trust your instinct and do it again. Let's go back to the drawing board. Did you have other ideas? Have you learned anything along the way that would steer you in another direction? And one of the things that we learned is, the team that we put together, that's just the ability to not let a failure beat you up was huge. Some people can't get over their biggest failure, and it's like, you just have to look at a failure as something that you learn something from it. Everyone learns in some way. When you get thrown into the fire and it's like super hard and super frustrating, you learn so much. And we were going through that process while building the first iteration of the product. And when the product launched, it grew, and we got 30,000 users signed up, and everybody's super happy. And then we started having a product and having to deal with our customers and deal with the people using our product, and that was just new for us to as prosumers were using the product, we never really had the non-enterprise person coming to us so in the way that they were with this product. So we learned so much from our products. There was things that we did, I don't want to call it cheating. Matt likes to call it cheating because that's what Matt does, is he likes to call things that the engineering team does as cheating. But we put buttons in our products to say, like, click here to enable this feature. And then when they clicked it, it would say, feature coming soon. And we would track how many people are clicking that button. Is this actually a feature we should be spending time on?
This is a really big deal. One of the things Miller challenges with is how much time are you guys spending wiring up buttons and nobody's ever pushing? I mean, that's a really big question. When you build a website or a web app, you can kind of figure that out. This is what split testing is all about. You just throw it on the page, see if anyone ever clicks it. You're building something that actually has to get deployed, and then you have to get them to install it. They already installed the first thing, so you got to get them to install the upgrade, which is not easy. I mean, there's attrition there. People just like to. You go to Evernote forums, this is hilarious. There's people that'll write these 3-page long rants about how the software doesn't do something. And the first reply is, you're running a 6-year-old version. Believe it or not, we've been doing something here. You should upgrade, because we did that 4 years ago. I mean, it's hysterical. So getting an upgrade is really hard. So how do you put, how can you do your testing? How can you really validate that they want the features they're asking for? Because they were coming in droves. People are asking for all kinds of stuff, and we just didn't. Some of it we knew was BS. Some of it we weren't really sure. So we need to come up with a way to test those. And so that's why I call it cheating without getting caught. It's like, how can we test this idea today? Put it in this afternoon's build. Create a button. All it does is literally send us an email. It's like, hey, someone pushed the button. And it was crazy. We had a forum post and 5,000 people are like, I want this feature. And only 4 of them ever pressed the button. It's I'm glad we didn't build it.
And the engineering team, we're all thinking, we have to build this feature. How have we overlooked this thing?
Yeah.
And then we put it in there, and it's like crickets. There's no one no one clicking the button, no one trying to do this thing that everyone internally is like, this is the new sliced bread for us. Question?
So, along the lines of product market fit or problem market fit, how did you go about the validating what went into R1, R2, R3, and did you do that back-end market validation to make sure that, hey, if we're going to build it, will they come and rather well?
So so this was greenfield for us. Nobody else was doing this at the time. There was, when we first started the project, Dropbox had a forum forum post where someone knew, client-side encryption was the requested feature, and there was thousands of replies from people asking for it, and no response from Dropbox. And we're like, well, even if they built it, what we know about it, there has to be separation. No one would really just trust it from Dropbox anyway. I mean, some people would, maybe some early adopters, but that's not really going to solve, the business problem of would I put, my customers' information in here. So we took a quick look at the market. We found two companies that were doing something kind of like it, both overseas, and they were one-man bands. There was a third one-man band in Melba, Idaho. A company called Secret Sync the company was completely private files. The product was called Secret Sync. There was like 10 products that were all these like little tiny little like playthings that, it was just like an engineer that was solving like one problem at a time for things that he found annoying in the world. And he had something that was kind of like what we were going to build. So we actually reached out to him. His name's James Robson. And we bought his company and hired him, and he came here and got us, running on the first product. So I mean, that was kind of the research we did. We knew nobody was going to take a swing at it. I mean, encryption, those that don't understand encryption are doomed to reinvent it poorly. I mean, this stuff's not for the faint of heart. Anybody out there, you guys have heard of them, Telegram. I mean, you just list all the like encrypted messaging apps. These guys are all like rolling their own. They're putting up these bounties for like, if you break it, we'll give you $100,000, and they're getting taken down in like days. I mean, it's not, you don't invent your own encryption. We didn't invent ours. We're using the same stuff that, that the industry's using. It's been validated by, literally thousands of mathematicians and cryptographers. So anyway, yeah.
Sorry, so you guys talked about having an MVP and how everyone in the company thought that it was completely impossible, and then kind of jumped to building new features. So I'm kind of curious, what was the MVP?
Yeah, I guess that's the second part of this question too. So the MVP was, and this is where we got wrapped around the axle big time, because the MVP would just be encrypt the file before it goes to Dropbox, do it on one platform, and you're done. And we were like, well, that's not going to work. The only reason why everybody's using Dropbox is because it works, because it literally solved the problem. Like, I can't get files from my Mac to my PC. We've had that problem since we've had computers. I mean, there's ways to do it, but they solved that problem. I mean, they blew up with the iPad, right? Christmas morning in 2005, everyone got an iPad. I was like, how do I get all my crap on here? It was like, that's what launched Dropbox. They went from 0 to 100 million users because of the iPad. So, the answer to your question is we decided we were going to build on all 4 platforms, which is completely stupid for an MVP. We were like, whatever, we got to have Linux, we got to have Windows, we got to have iOS and Android, and we'll do Linux later. And so we did that. And then as we were, going through the motions, we were like, well, the real reason why we wanted to be a leg up on the other 2 guys, because they were out a bit ahead of us, and they had products that were pretty solid on 1 or 2 of those platforms. So we were like, we've seen the bend in the road, right? The bend in the road is sharing. Another reason why people use Dropbox is because it's just plain as stupid easy to share files with people that you want to. We're like, we've got to solve the sharing problem. And that's a lot easier said than done. The way the other companies have decided they were going to solve the sharing problem is tell everyone your password. We're like, that almost defeats the purpose entirely. We're like, I don't know. So we were like, yes, no one gets it yet. We thought they figured it out, but it was like, that's hilarious. So we're like, we're going to take down sharing. And as we started figuring out how to do sharing, we realized we were building in key management. For anybody in the room familiar with encryption, or is it just, you use it, it's there, but you don't really deal with it that much. The crux of any encryption solution is its key management. How does the passwords work, or how do the encryption keys that get exchanged with people using it, how does that work? So we're like, well, we've got to build a key management solution that works with this thing. Again, not very MVP. But we knew, in order to preserve, we only had 2 goals. Take the issue of security off the table, don't change the user experience. If you're not going to change the user experience at Dropbox, you've got to be completely under the covers. So, the features people would ask for is what I really want is my file names encrypted. Not just the files, even the name is too damaging for me, so that's got to get obfuscated as well. And tons of other little weird features like that.
Yeah, I think to me it became less MVP when we made that change from deciding that we need a key management server because that's essentially what it would enable us to do secure data exchange in the cloud with collaborators.
But that was also like the decision to build the key management into it. We didn't have a server, we didn't have anything. We wanted it to all work in the context of Dropbox. So we actually used Dropbox to synchronize metadata. We used their API. And the decision to do that, to get to market in the time we wanted to get to market and then have to solve the key management problem, that was where we put ourselves in the biggest hurdle ever. Because the next pivot is beyond Dropbox.
Right.
And their API is not like the others. So we literally couldn't take the same system and extend it very easily. Those were other things people wanted.
So Matt kind of touched on this, what we put in the MVP and in the products as we were building. It was this concept, which was very new for PKWARE, was the concept of dark code. And what we refer to dark code is basically full-blown features in the product that you have installed that you just don't have access to. And we, on the back end, from the server's perspective, can like turn on and turn off. It allows us to do some testing with people who are asking for some of these weird features. Let's say we had a button to enable something and it said coming soon. Maybe we actually change that to enable it. We can go back to the list of people who click the button and selectively reach out to them individually and send them like a handwritten email, not some robot email that says like, we've enabled it and it's in your system and this is how it uses, or this is how you use it. Please let us know what you think. We'd love to hear your feedback. We're in the process of building it. So they didn't even have to install, necessarily a new version it wasn't like, we finally got it. Click here to upgrade and enter your credit card information. It was, you already have it. It's already on your machine and working. So this dark code thing was very new to PKWARE, very new to a lot of the engineers working on the team, but it allowed us to do a lot of different testing and in a few cases, some damage control when things didn't work right. We're like, hey, we need to disable this real quick and we'll have a new build where it's working better in the future.
So the idea of dark code is not new for anybody who's built websites or web applications. You guys have used this construct forever, but when you're building a fat application and someone's going to run it, potentially never upgrade, building an entitlement system that allowed us to kind of flip some of that stuff on and off and force them, to upgrade if they wanted to use something that was one of the tags we used.
So when it came from MVP to kind of full-blown product for us was when we got so many requests for, I love what you've done with Dropbox, but we actually use Google Drive at my work. Can this work with Google Drive? And as Matt alluded to, like our MVP was tied to Dropbox. It only would work in Dropbox. And that's when we had to change from, this is a Dropbox-centric solution to, we need this to work on all cloud providers. And not just the ones we know of today, but like maybe ones that might come up in the future. Because at the time, like Dropbox gave you 2 gigabytes, Google Drive gave you like 2 gigabytes. So like I think a lot of people had a lot of accounts. Like I have some files here, some files there, some files there. We're thinking, there's no reason that we can't encrypt them all. So that's one of the big pivots. The first big pivot for us was taking kind of from that MVP product that was deployed and used in the world to a big change, key management server. Because if we took the key management out of Dropbox as it was tied to Dropbox, literally like your metadata was floating around in Dropbox, encrypted, but it needed to not float in Dropbox anymore. It needed to be stored in a server that our application could get access to.
So with the release of, not the release, but with the decision to go this route, we talked to our customers, talked to users, kind of let everybody know, and that's when all hell broke loose. Because if we were going to, encryption for Dropbox is really easy. You care about it or you don't. People self-select it out like that, which was awesome. Encryption kind of everywhere, right when Edward Snowden's, like we met Edward Snowden, everybody got interested in encryption. They were installing stuff left and right. And we blew up to 60,000 users, of which, we weren't sure a ton of them, like what they were even doing. Like, did they come here for the Dropbox product? Did they come here because they're curious about encryption? How many of these are competitors? How many of them like crazy people that are asking for features that, like this exists, like encryption's not new, it's been around for 400 years. There's really hard to use tinfoil hat encryption solutions out there, like PGP, everyone's heard of PGP, like that guys like this love, right? We're gonna, visual collection, does it protect against visual collection? And we're like, you mean we sell socks you can put on your head so people can't see what you're typing? No, it doesn't do that. Like, how do you, what? This isn't, like, what's happening? But everybody got really interested in encryption a couple of years ago with the rise of one group that got super interested in It is, we call it attack of the lawyers.
So as the product continued to grow, we had our key management server out in the world, up in the cloud, so you could get access to it from anywhere, and all the what we called the major cloud providers at the time. And we started looking more and more at the data of like the requests that came in, whether it be support or features, and we started looking at this trend, and it was a lot of lawyers. And we learned lawyers are just coming to us. We're not even trying to sell this to lawyers. They have found it, and they are telling each other about it, and they're coming to us. So we kind of narrowed down from the prosumer, which is anyone in the world can be a prosumer, to actually starting to market and build and sell the product to lawyers in particular, which is not something PKWARE has ever really focused on. We're more interested in the bigger enterprises, not necessarily your 30-person law firm.
And this is also kind of the beauty of the autonomous team. I mean, you've got the entire company, PKWARE, watching us, and all of a sudden the homepage, the banners, the trade shows, like everything's becoming lawyer-centric. And you have to wonder around the other 60-some people in the company are like, what the hell are those guys doing over there? And it's, yeah.
What's timeline on this? So you launch, you make a decision to field the product in what, 13?
Yeah. So, sorry, field the product in 12, launched in 13. We're somewhere
Key server came on
end of 14.
right?
Yeah, we launched the key server and the multi-capability in 14. Near the end of 14, we started going after it. These guys there was tens of thousands of the lawyers. And so at that point, we're going to market to the people that are using it. We did a quick analysis. We didn't talk to any analysts or anything like that on what the legal market looks like, and we fell in love with it for a couple of reasons. One, lawyers have a total herd mentality, which I never knew, but they all kind of use the same software. They go to different shows. There's entire vendors that exist that just build software for lawyers. So we started kind of learning about case management software. We learned about the American Bar Association and all the rules and ethics when it comes to protecting information. And we were like, holy crap, this group was made for us. ABA Rule 1.6, or this vertical was made for us. ABA Rule 1.6 says you must take reasonable steps to protect client information before putting it in Dropbox. And they list Dropbox by name. It's not in the cloud or on a hard drive. It's literally you must do that. And they interpreted it as encryption. That's what reasonable steps is, encryption. So the lawyers started just looking for the only Dropbox encryptors out there they could find with good Google organic ranking. And then all of a sudden, these crazy lawyer tech blogs started doing product reviews, and they're like, this thing's amazing, just use it, And then they were doing talks about it, and the lawyers don't let vendors do anything. We went to the tech show, and it's all these lawyer-led talks of people that are presenting technology that they don't quite understand, and we're like, we can help, we're in the audience, we didn't know what to do, but it was great because we're getting thousands of downloads a day from this group.
I think our biggest day was when we went down to the ABA Tech Show in Chicago.
We didn't even go there, it was the year before was our biggest day.
Yeah, exactly. So the year before we went was our biggest download day ever, because 4 different people on stage mentioned, oh yeah, I use this Project Vivo to help me encrypt my files in the cloud. And all of a sudden, all these downloads started coming in, and we're getting all these new email addresses from familyfirm.com and all these things. And we're like, what's going on? So that's when we really made the decision, let's focus on lawyers. We went down the following year to the ABA Tech Show, started trying to learn more about our new target customer. It kind of went from a broad target customer. We whittled it down, we tried to learn as much as we could about them. We learned about the other software they're using, the case management solutions, and how can we integrate with that? Because a lot of these case management solutions are also working with Dropbox, and it's we got on calls with other vendors, and we said, let's work together. We can make a great solution if we could figure out a way to do this. So
lawyers were also kind of the downfall and why we had to eventually run away from them. I've been doing IT support for 16, 17 years now. They're the worst users in the world. By not even close margin. My parents are better users than they are. They don't follow instructions. They don't read anything, including you, Liz.
Ironic.
Totally. They want, they're kind of handheld through every single thing. Most of them didn't know how to use Dropbox. Our tech support guys were answering questions about how to install Dropbox. It was crazy.
How to share on Dropbox.
They would send us invoices, like they would call us because they didn't know how to do something and then like invoice us for the time they spent because we didn't like fix their problem right away. And a lot of times, I'm not even exaggerating, like a lot of times their problem is like their computer doesn't work, but they don't have an IT guy. But because we were stupid enough to like advertise US-based tech support, you know, with a pro subscription, they were literally calling and saying, how do I do anything? You know, Windows won't start today. You know, it says insert disk. We're like, what? And they're like, well, I've been told I need to use your product, so can you help me get there? It's like, so lawyers are really bad. We spend as much time with a 2-person law firm as we do with a 200,000 seat enterprise customer on one of our other products. So definitely not worth it.
Kind of led us to the last pivot, which now brings us up more to current day. So Vivo's still out in the world. Vivo's still used. We still get, like, we don't advertise actively for it. We have our website up, of course, but we aren't, you know, just out there pushing and beating the drum. And we still, you know, 50 downloads coming a day. People are still buying the product. Still have
still
revenue.
employ 2 full-time tech support people answering their
We're still answering questions, but we realize this is not the business for us.
Like,
This
even
is-
though they're rabid for the software, we don't want to sell to them anymore. So we
No.
have to redefine target customer, which was not easy. I mean, it took us a long time. So it took us 8 months to figure out that that's what we wanted to do. So at this point, you kind of have to think about what's happening in the world. We've met Edward Snowden, but we've also, the world woke up with the Target breach. We've been dealing with breaches forever. I mean, data breaches have been a thing as long as, you know, information's been digital. But nobody really cared. When I say nobody, I mean the mainstream media didn't really care until the big Target breach. So if you think about what it takes for a data breach, there's really only 3 things. Somebody has to get in, they have to get information, and they have to get it out. If you can stop one of those 3 things, you don't have a breach. Now, 90% of the industry is focused on stopping number 1. This is where you get your advanced persistent threat, antivirus, anti-malware, firewall. Literally any enterprise security solution, you know, that has that like wall and moat strategy of keeping them from getting in. That's what they're all doing. 10% of the industry, you know, split up between the other 2. So, you know, I'd say probably 7-8% is on number 2, you know, stopping you from getting information. And then finally, number 3 is where like a lot of really new Sand Hill Road money's going. There's a lot of innovation and, okay, they got in, they got the information, but they're trying to get it out. Let's detect that. It's getting a little noisy because most of the firewall guys are like, hey, if you turn the firewall around backwards, it works the same way. So they're really crowding that space. But there's some really interesting things happening in number 3, but that's beyond the scope of this. So what happens like generally when InfoSec fails, right? So take these in order. TJ Westlake, Target, Home Depot, those are retail breaches. JPMC, big financial services breach. So maybe people change credit cards, maybe they get a new one. I mean, Target stock went up like the day after. I mean, so do we care? Maybe not. What about Sony? Sony's really interesting, not regulated industry. We saw what happened with that. It's like emails, it's password spreadsheets. There's all kinds of crazy information that came out of the Sony breach. Sony's own servers were hosting the downloads for like weeks. I mean, it was pretty nuts. Nation state sponsored attack. You got Anthem. Okay, so now we should care, right? Anthem, it's our healthcare provider. It's all our patient health information. It's everything about us. PHI data goes on the black market for like 10 times what a stolen credit card goes for. I mean, right now there's children that are going to turn 18 and find out that like their identities are already stolen, but they haven't tried to get anything yet, so they don't care. I mean, so we should care about Anthem, right? 80 million records. Nothing, because we don't get to pick. Our company picks, so we just don't care. Then you've got OPM, like the greatest breach of all time. Like Tom Cruise has been making movies about protecting the knock list since I was a little kid. And that's what happened with OPM. They stole everybody's fingerprints, all the like questions they ask you in the closed rooms were like, don't worry, we won't tell anyone. Like all that got stolen with OPM. And then icing on the cake, the final one, T-Mobile Experian. So T-Mobile customer, they gave Experian all their data because that's what you do. Experian got breached. And here's T-Mobile's recourse. We're gonna give you data protection or identity protection from Experian. Like, I think things are getting pretty serious. So this is all happening like while we're talking to the lawyers and we're like, we're gonna miss the opportunity. There's actually a window opening over here and we're gonna miss it. We gotta get away from these guys. This is actually, you know, a real enterprise problem. And it's because we've sailed off the map. We've just sailed off it. We're spending so much money building fences that go up thousands of feet and we're, you know, ignoring the fact that you can tunnel underneath it and then you're just inside the building. So that's, so that's like one part of it. The other thing that was curious to us is data. Data's got value. It sells for a ton of money on the black market. But if you look at a company's general ledger, nobody's got a row for data. Look, we've got 1 million eyeballs in our database. How much is that worth? Like, the accounting doesn't have a value. There's no fixed asset. They're not running a depreciation schedule on it. Like, why do we not care? There's like literally no penalty for, especially if you're outside of a regulated industry, for hanging on to data. The good news is FTC's been taking people down like crazy. Alita Ramirez is the chairman, and she's been going after Wyndham Hotels, a bunch of other companies that have been, not regulated and grossly mishandling customers' information. So again, there's more opportunity for us here. We're like, what we need is a data protection strategy. We need to help enterprises protect data itself, right? Not the network, not the devices. Protect the data persistently so that it goes wherever the information goes. And protect it from, from 3 categories of people. Everybody always, you can look at any InfoSec vendor's website from any of these, crazy categories. These are all the different, the guys on the perimeter, firewalls, VPN, DLP, security, APT. I mean, this is nothing. There's 1,400 vendors in InfoSec, and these are just a few of the categories. But there's nobody focused on it. Access control is the only thing we have for actual data. And once you bypass access control, you've got the data. So we always say we protect you from thieves, snoops, and idiots. Everybody will market to one or more of these guys, but your thieves are your external attackers, your rogue employees. The folks we're talking to as we're deciding on this pivot are all telling us we have 2 major concerns: separation of duties and chain of custody. I've got 1,400 DBAs, and they can all see the sensitive information. But if I blind them, the applications break. Like, figure that out for me. And then chain of custody. I want to know who touched it, when they touched it, how long they touched it for, which devices they touched it on, who they give it to, what did they do with it. They want to follow that chain of custody of the actual information. Snoops, our friends at 3-letter agencies, insider threats, people that have access to more information than they should. It's a perfect Edward Snowden case. He was kind of the snoop that turned into a thief. So we started in the middle and top. Then finally, users, admins, and basically everyone are the idiots. I mean, being in IT for a long time, we make mistakes all the time. And the best IT guys are just the ones that are most adept at hiding mistakes from everybody else. And so, if your data is encrypted, when it gets exposed, the world doesn't end, right? So who's doing it right? Regulated industry, we can skip that. And the challenges we have at PKWARE today, as we're taking, so we've converged, PK Zip Secure Zip and Vivo into a new offering called SmartCrypt. We launched it in January. We've been in market now with it for a couple of months. I was really hoping it would close today, but it didn't. We're a hair's breadth away from closing a multi-million-dollar deal with a top 10 bank on it. So much less work than the lawyers at this point do.
But I think one of the things Matt's not talking about is we took so many of the components and things that we built with Vivo and learned that there is value to this. This is solving a problem for people in a way that is palatable to the world. And we took a lot of those components and thought about how can we harness what we built here and put it onto our existing enterprise product, and that's what led us to SmartCrypt. It's the best of everything PKWARE has to offer. It's the best product we've ever made. We wouldn't be able to build SmartCrypt without the Vivo project learning experience. We wouldn't have been able to decide in less than a year and get it to market and build it without Vivo in the middle there. We learned so much. We tried out new technologies. From the engineering side, we learned a whole ton of stuff. I mean, we learned what we liked about certain tools. We learned, different code bases completely involved. And so just in the nitty-gritty details, we would not be anywhere close to where we are today without all the investment and energy and passion that went into Vivo. So it's totally a great stepping stone for us. It was kind of the final pivot for Vivo. And some of the other challenges that we focus on today, continuing to build SmartCrypt, but then also we've pivoted kind of back to the enterprise. We pivoted originally away from the enterprise, gathered a bunch of people and said, come on, let's go build this new product for prosumers. And then we pivoted to lawyers, and some people were like, not really, that's not really what I want to do with my career. And now we're going back into the enterprise and saying like, this is where our biggest opportunity is. And keeping people and keeping super talented people during this process is very hard, because a lot of people, especially in the engineering side, there's great ideas happening all over, and being someone who has a great skill set in, whether it be developing applications, deploying applications, there's opportunities everywhere for software engineers. And it's really hard to keep them interested in the mission. And as the mission changes, it's natural that you might not be able to keep everyone's interest, but you don't want to lose their skill set because they've learned through the process with you. So it's been really challenging, and we have lost some great engineers along the process. Yeah.
So 2 quick questions. One, what was total embedded cost to date of everything that got built? Question 1. Question 2, when you take a look and say, we had setbacks, delays, I don't know if I call it failure, because you're building clients, you're building products, you got some revenues. Was it a marketing failure? Was it an engineering failure? Was it, how do you characterize what the barrier to success was?
Right. So, answer the first question. The company, the autonomous innovation team was set up as a separate company. Was funded independently, and it had to report to its board of directors, which is basically Miller, once a year in order to get its budget renewed for the next year. So, it's north of $1 million, all in for heads and marketing and whatnot. And your second question was totally spaced on your second question.
How do you characterize what the obstacle was? Was it a
Oh,
marketing, product, engineering?
I think we did a ton of things right. I just don't think it was. I don't even know.
Lane management.
What's that?
Lane management.
That's us. Which is probably the right answer. Yeah, that's sorry. It's just me. It's a good call. I don't think it was any one thing. It was just us failing to achieve revenue goals. I mean, every project that PKWARE does has project measures of success and commercial measures of success. So we didn't hit our commercial measures. I mean, not even close. We wanted to be, in the hundreds of thousands of dollars after release 2, and we weren't there. The 50 users we get a day, most of them are free. We converted 10%, but it's $60, a year. And now we're bringing in a couple of grand a month on it, but it's not anywhere close to where it needs to be. And so I don't think it was necessarily a problem with the model. We just didn't get the right percentage of any market we went after, including the lawyers.
When did you guys realize you were in trouble?
Since day one. It's actually the great thing about PKWARE. And I know we're way over time, Matt, so I'll try to finish it up with an answer to this question. But Miller giving us permission to fail and try new things is huge. I'm a Midwestern kid. It wasn't natural for me to think that way. They forced me out to San Francisco for the first 2 years of this project to learn from product management there, to work with teams out there. We use marketing from out there. We use some PR from out there. We used a lot of idea catalyzing from out there. And so getting the culture used to failure is not failure. It's a chance to learn. What did you learn? Show me the document that contains the list of experiments you've run and their results, right? That's required reading for every single person on their first day. And so, I never really felt like we were in trouble. It was just like, holy crap. But that was tough for the team. It's why we needed a new team, and it's why we try to hire, those types of people now. I mean, and like everybody in the Midwest, we struggle, well, not in the Midwest, anybody anywhere. We have trouble hiring and retaining top talent. It's just a grind. Some things we look for, insatiable curiosity, super high tolerance for ambiguity. We lose so many people because they think that they have a high tolerance for that, and they don't. People that want it written down, look, we just talked about it, go do it. And my attempt to write it down and the minutes spent on that will in no way help you build something better, because you're going to build it, you're going to use it. Everybody on the team, we talk about all the time, they're all mini product managers. That's what they are, and that's what we expect. And high performance, it's not about time spent in the chair, it's about results delivered. Did you finish these experiments? you know, how much time, you know, did we waste not making a decision to get us away from here quicker? So, yeah.
So why did you guys look at like selling that off to a company that was better able to support that client base? I mean, it was obviously a niche market.
For sure.
Somebody else maybe had a better support structure that was suited.
Yeah. More tolerant.
Or licenses or something.
Yeah.
More tolerant. Yeah.
It's for sure still on the table. You know, we brought you up to pretty recent, you know, discussions. It's something we question, you know, every single day. Is that something that we want to bring on a different team to continue to iterate on? Is it something that, you know, we want to sell off? I mean, what Jack said is true about, you know, convergence. 90% of the code growth for that product is in the new one. So it's, you know, it's just a different direction, different target customer.
That culture that you talked about before, did that pervade to the rest of the PKWARE team, or was that just kind of siloed with your skunkworks?
It has. We've had to go through a ton of churn to get everybody used to it. But we used to, the honest answer is at some point, you know, over PKWARE's long career, we became a family. And, you know, that worked for a really long time. You know, we treated each other like a family. And the reality is we needed to be operating like a professional sports team. I mean, we need to trade players. We need to let them go when they're not performing. And that was really tough, super tough for a lot of senior management, super tough for a lot of teammates. And it was a really difficult time trying to take a product to market and go through that because it affected everybody. I mean, you couldn't just, we didn't have them working in a separate building. They were literally working in the same building as the incumbents. And well, we always need guys to do sustaining innovation on a product that shipped 10 years ago because the stuff is just that sticky. You know, we've got to find that balance between, you know, what is sort of defensive, like we're not building anything unless we're 100% positive, to, you know, going the complete other way, which is like, oh yeah, sure, let's build it and see if it works, right? You know, and I don't care if we throw it away. So we've got a good mix of both of those people. And so when it comes to a new task or a new area to go down, we just pick, hey, is this a sustaining task or is this an innovation task? Because we know the innovation guy's not going to get his feelings when we throw his work away or girl. So.
Thanks, John. Thanks, guys. This is going to be tough to make a public admission like this, so.
Look, we're right over there on the 5th. We've got like completed, there's no offices in our entire building. It's all like glass walled. We decided a long time ago that things we said in private would be way better if the entire company heard what we were saying. So we've been trying to be really transparent, you know, with this team and with this mission. And so nothing's really off the table with us. Because I mean, it's not a good fit for, you know, who we're trying to hire, then it's not going to work out. So let's just be honest and upfront. Life gets a lot better. There's way more things to worry about.
Yeah, thanks guys, and we'll see everyone here next week. Let's give it a